My husband, who had been kind to me, became arrogant towards me after we got married. He doesn't have a proper job and relies on my income. If I dare to complain even a little, he becomes enraged and resorts to violence. I was gradually worn down by stress. At that time, I met with an accident and ended up with a lower limb disability. And on a snowy day, my husband kicked me out of the house.
I refuse to take care of you for the rest of my life.
Thus ended our married life. 1 year after the divorce, I encountered my ex-husband, Andrew, again. I smiled warmly at him and said, "Thank you for that time."
Huh?
Actually, something good happened at that time. My name is Kira, and I'm 29 years old. I work as an office worker. I'm in my 3rd year of marriage with my husband, Andrew, who is 2 years older than me. We don't have children yet, and live together in an apartment. We met at a drinking party, invited by colleagues at work. Andrew was cheerful and skilled at his job. Since I tend to be shy, his outgoing nature seemed dazzling to me. I started to be interested in him and gathered the courage to approach him. Andrew also seemed interested in me, and we decided to try dating. The relationship progressed smoothly, and before we knew it, we decided to get married. A happy married life was supposed to begin. At that time, I truly believed it. However, after marriage, Andrew changed. His gentlemanly demeanor disappeared, and he started to show a bossy, arrogant attitude towards me.
Hey, what are you dilly-dallying for? Hurry up and make some food. You're such a useless wife.
I respond to him, feeling fed up. I'm in the middle of making it, so don't rush me. Besides, it's your fault for eating all the prepared side dishes in advance.
Don't make excuses. I had no choice because there were no snacks for the drinks. You should have been considerate and prepared some snacks. Can't you even understand such simple things, even though you're my wife?
Andrew treats me like a servant. Even though we both work, it's taken for granted that I do all the household chores. He doesn't lift a finger to help with dishes, cooking, or cleaning. When he comes home from work, all he does is laze around watching TV or playing games. Even when I'm unwell, he unapologetically demands that I take care of the housework. If I absolutely can't manage, he grumbles while buying meals from the convenience store. And of course, I'm the one who has to clean up the resulting mess. On top of all this, he's quick to criticize despite being the one who manages the finances. Even the dish I went through the trouble of making.
First of all, this is inedible,
he casually declares. If even a little bit of lint sticks to the laundry, he arrogantly thrusts the clothes at me, saying,
"Do it over."
Even though Andrew is the one who tends to make more mess during cleaning, if the room is even slightly dirty, he gets angry and accuses me of slacking off. The challenges aren't limited to just household chores. Andrew doesn't even contribute decently to our living expenses. The reality is, I manage the majority of our living expenses with my salary. While my income is not bad, it's still a bit tight. If I work overtime, I can increase my earnings, but then I won't have the time to do household chores. If the housework falls behind, I end up being scolded by Andrew. I did try talking to him about it, but he didn't bother to listen to what I had to say.
You can live comfortably because you have your own salary, right?
Even though he claims,
I'm saving my share, so don't worry.
I've never seen his salary slip or his savings passbook. I've asked to see them before, but he gets angry and says,
That's an invasion of privacy.
So I had no choice but to give up. To be honest, Andrew's claim about saving money seems suspicious in itself. That's because he spends quite frequently. The bags and watches he wears are branded, and he dresses in expensive clothes. He also buys costly items like bikes and golf bags. It seems like he's relying on my money to fund his hobbies, using his salary selfishly. Andrew's just selfish and not kind to me at all. Relying on someone else's salary to cover rent, food, and all the expenses is just unreasonable. I was deeply disappointed with a married life that was far from my ideal. The word divorce lingered in my mind multiple times, but I couldn't quite bring myself to make a decision. After all, it hasn't been that long since we got married. Maybe I'm not putting in enough effort. Perhaps if I try harder, Andrew will go back to being the kind person he used to be. I held on to that hope and chose to maintain the current situation. Looking back, I realized that this decision was a mistake. Somewhere in my heart, I believed, maybe it's just the kindness of the old Andrew that I miss. However, it turned out it wasn't about money, but merely hiding books. My husband became more domineering as I obediently followed without resistance. His various requests increased, and their nature gradually became more unreasonable. One day, Andrew came home with a gloomy expression. He had mistakenly placed an order for the wrong product at work, causing significant losses. Knowing it's best not to get involved when my husband is in a bad mood, I quietly did household chores while listening to Andrew's complaints. Suddenly, Andrew turned his attention towards me.
It's your fault from the start.
Huh? Why is it my fault? I turned to him in surprise. The things you're talking about have nothing to do with me.
It's because you didn't support me properly. The home environment isn't reassuring, so I've been stressed too. Because of that, I ended up doing such meaningless things.
Andrew's arbitrary words left me speechless. This is clearly taking out frustrations on me, even though I've been putting in so much effort. Why would he express dissatisfaction with that? Though I'm usually silent about it, I finally spoke back to him. Stop blaming me for your work-related mistakes. It's important to separate home and work, right? I understand you're frustrated, but don't take it out on me. In response, instead of reflecting, Andrew exploded at me when I talked back. His face turned bright red and he yelled,
"Shut up!"
while throwing a cup filled with alcohol. Fortunately, the cup didn't hit me, but I couldn't help but tremble. One wrong step, and it could have resulted in a serious injury. Ignoring my fear, my husband continued to hurl insults, shouting,
"Useless woman! Good for nothing. Stop arguing back. Marrying someone like you was a mistake. I'm the husband here. If you're a wife, shut up and serve me obediently. I'll make sure you never defy me again."
Since then, my days have been filled with pressure from him. If something displeased him, he would hurl abusive words. There were times when he would hit or kick me. Even at work, I received threatening messages from Andrew every day like,
"This ugly woman, useless wife, I'll make you suffer when you get home."
This is how he redirected the stress from his job towards me, leaving me unable to find peace at home and, even at work, receiving threatening messages. I became unable to sleep due to the psychological pressure. Days of being scared of Andrew apologizing for anything he said continued. Then one day a major incident occurred. Due to the harsh daily life and lack of sleep, I went shopping half asleep, and while in a daze, I ended up on the road and got hit by a car. At that moment, I didn't know what was happening. I just endured the pain in my body. The owner of the car called an ambulance and I was taken to the hospital. There were no life-threatening injuries, but I had a complex fracture in one leg, rendering me unable to walk. I was discharged, but I had to use a wheelchair. According to the doctor, with diligent rehabilitation, I could regain the ability to walk, although it would take time. The owner of the car that hit me repeatedly apologized with a pale face. Feeling sorry for being initially disoriented with a half-asleep state, I couldn't help but feel apologetic. My parents hurriedly came to visit me. At that moment, I hesitated about discussing Andrew's situation, but in the end, couldn't bring myself to say anything. Throughout my hospitalization, Andrew never visited me even once. I would have to lead a restricted life for a while, but if I worked hard, I could eventually walk normally again. So, I was determined to give my best in rehabilitation. That's what I thought. When I returned home, Andrew's cold words were waiting for me.
It's become quite troublesome. Getting involved in an accident? Just how unlucky can you be? You're trying to get me in trouble.
I'm sorry, I was a bit spaced out. The indirect cause of the accident was Andrew in the first place, but I don't have the courage to say so. I just had to bow my head and apologize to him. Andrew continued to question me in a harsh voice.
Can you do household chores with those useless legs of yours?
It might be challenging for a while, but if I work hard on rehabilitation, I might be able to walk a bit eventually. So maybe you could manage dinner on your own.
Impossible.
Huh? Andrew interrupted my words, glared at me, and coldly declared,
I've said it before. I don't want to take care of you for the rest of my life. Divorce is the only option for someone as incapable as you. Get out right now.
Wait a minute. My disability isn't forever. The doctor even said, with rehabilitation, I might be able to walk again.
That's just a possibility, right? There's no way you, with your disability, can endure rigorous rehabilitation. Stop whining and leave already.
Andrew heartlessly uttered those words and forcefully expelled me in a wheelchair out into the heavy snow. Pushed roughly by my husband, I tumbled, wheelchair and all. Panicking, I desperately called out to Andrew. You! Please open the door! I knock on the door with all my strength, but Andrew doesn't respond. What should I do? If it continues like this, I might get hurt. Faced with the unopened door, I felt lost. At that moment, I realized something. You could say my eyes were opened. Why didn't I notice it earlier? With this as impetus, if I get a divorce, I won't have to live with that dreadful person anymore. I don't have to endure verbal abuse or violence anymore. There's not a single trace of affection left for Andrew, who tormented me for so long. I quickly took out my phone from my pocket and called a friend who lives nearby. Despite the sudden call, my friend immediately came to my aid. After being kicked out, I was taken to my parents' house. My parents were surprised when I suddenly returned, but after hearing the circumstances, they were furious. While crying, my mother hugged me, and my father gently patted my head. Overwhelmed by my parents' kindness, I couldn't help but cry. I was happy to see the kindness my parents showed me because I was worried that they might oppose my divorce. Afterward, I hired lawyers, and the divorce was finalized. The end of our married life was surprisingly uneventful. A year had passed since divorcing Andrew, and I was living in peace. I truly felt relieved and enjoyed my days now. However, one day, when I went to the hospital, I encountered Andrew again. No, it was Andrew who said,
Kira?
And approached me. He looked noticeably thin and worn out, compared to before we were married when he dressed sharply in branded clothes. His complexion was pale, his physique was scrawny, and his cheeks were chapped. Andrew was surprised to see me.
Kira, have you regained the ability to walk?
Yes, that's right. I worked hard on that rehabilitation you said I couldn't do after our divorce. After the divorce, I diligently underwent rehabilitation and managed to stand up somehow. I still can't run, but I can walk with a cane. Today, as part of my exercise, I walked to the hospital without overdoing it. Even so, I wondered why Andrew approached me. Just seeing his face makes me feel unpleasant. Whether he knew my true feelings or not, Andrew continued the conversation nonchalantly.
Perfect timing. I was just thinking of contacting you. It was really tough after I divorced you.
Without me asking, Andrew started narrating his story. He is currently living alone, relying on convenience store food and eating out excessively. As a result, his health deteriorated and he ended up in the hospital. On top of that, Andrew was forced to quit his job. He used to vent his stress on me on a daily basis, but after the divorce, he couldn't do that anymore. And he got frustrated and took it out on his subordinates and coworkers at work. Due to complaints from those affected and the loss of trust from his colleagues, he ended up being fired from the company.
I regretted deciding on the divorce so easily. I need you. Let's get back together, okay? You also want to come back to me, right?
His audacious request left me amazed. After treating me so badly, why would he think I still have lingering feelings for him? So, I told him this. What a coincidence. I was just about to contact you. Upon hearing this, Andrew's expression brightened. He might have thought we could reconcile, but it's not going to be that easy. Please, don't misunderstand. I was actually considering claiming settlement damages from you.
Huh? Damages?
Andrew seems bewildered, claiming he doesn't understand my words. Ignoring his reaction, I gently smiled and continued speaking. Thank you for that time. You left me with a lower limb disability, and that was a wake-up call.
Huh?
At the time, I was so sick at heart from being hounded by Andrew on a daily basis that I didn't have the energy to run away. But after the divorce, when I calmed down and thought about it, I was hot with anger. I have been treated so badly, and Andrew gets no blame? I don't agree with that. I want him to at least take some responsibility. I kept a diary every day, and I also saved insulting emails from Andrew. Consulting with a lawyer with this evidence revealed that it was sufficient to claim compensation. Upon hearing this, Andrew desperately apologized to me.
Please, spare me at least that much. Right now I'm really struggling to make ends meet. I can't afford any alimony. I'll apologize as many times as you want until you're satisfied.
I scoffed at Andrew's words and decided to say what I wanted to say. Just because you apologized doesn't mean I owe you anything. Before we divorced, even when I apologized while trembling, you still hit and kicked me. So why would you think you'll be forgiven if you apologize?
That's why I want you to know that I'm really sorry about that time.
It's too late. Your apologies don't matter to me. I just want to receive compensation for the suffering I endured. No matter what you say, I will definitely claim alimony. Let's discuss it through the lawyers.
Please, wait, Kira.
Shut up. I don't want to hear it. Get lost, you trash. I left angrily, leaving Andrew behind crying and pleading. I felt very refreshed. Later, through a lawyer, I claimed compensation from Andrew for the mental distress. Realizing that he would lose the lawsuit, Andrew borrowed money and paid me compensation. Now he seems to be living a daily life in debt, chased by debt collectors, but it's clearly his own fault. On the other hand, I am leading a calm life at my parents' house. Thanks to my efforts in rehabilitation, the condition of my legs has greatly improved. If I work a little harder, I will be able to walk without a cane like before. When I was injured in the accident, I lamented the harsh experience. However, if that was the reason I was able to divorce Andrew, it might be a blessing in disguise. I feel like I have regained my true self after the divorce. I'm tired of marriage for a while. In the meantime, I'm going to cultivate a discerning eye for men. I look forward to meeting someone kind this time.